Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a horror thriller film, Hunting Souls. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with a man named Mike being chased through the city streets by a man wearing a hood. Eventually, he is cornered by the hooded man and the latter points a gun at Mike. The hooded man utters a strange phrase regarding showing Mike a path. A gunshot rings through the night and Mike wakes up in his bed. It turns out that he was just having a nightmare. Beside Mike, his pig-sleeping wife, Angie, wakes up. She asks him about his nightmare, but he becomes defensive and tells her that unlike her, he is not the type of person to psychoanalyze his dreams. Mike feels chills running down his arms, and he vaguely hears whispers around the room. Suddenly, he sees their young daughter Sophie standing at the foot of their bed, staring at them menacingly. He asks her what she's doing there, and his wife glances at the spot he is looking at. She can't see Sophie there, but Mike clearly sees their daughter. Without saying a word, Sophie steps backward and disappears into the wall. Moments later, Sophie screams for her father from her bedroom. He walks into her bedroom and finds her in her bed. She is afraid because she can't move in her sleep. Mike calmly explains that it's a part of her sickness. He presses a palm on her forehead and discovers that Sophie is running a fever. They immediately get their daughter and take her to the hospital. While on the way, Angie asks Mike about his vision of seeing Sophie standing in their room. She is scared that their daughter is dying, and what Mike saw is Sophie's spirit saying goodbye already. Mike comforts his wife and tells her that this is different from the dream that Angie had before about her dying father. They arrive at the hospital and rush the unconscious Sophie inside. Mike discusses with the doctor his suspicion that Sophie is malnourished, despite being fed 3 times a day. The doctor inspects the child with a stethoscope, and he notices that there are strange marks on Sophie's back. He raises this issue with the couple, but they are clueless as to how the marks appeared. Once the parents are gone, the doctor once again asks Sophie to tell the truth about the marks, but the child just replies that no one can help her. Later on, the doctor talks with Mike and Angie again. He confirms that they still don't know what is causing Sophie's malnutrition, nor how the marks came to be. Hours later, Mike wakes up from his nap at Sophie's bedside. He begins to hear strange noises coming from outside the hospital room, but when he opens the door, there is no one there. The next morning, the doctor discusses Sophie's mysterious illness with her nurse. He says that he looked at her medical history and found that she was best friends with another boy who displayed the same mysterious symptoms as her. The nurse posits that maybe the boy had infected Sophie with a virus, but the doctor still wants to make sure that Sophie is not being abused by her parents, so he tells the nurse to call social services. Mike leaves the hospital so he can go to work. In the parking lot, he calls the boy's mother to find out more about his condition, but the mother refuses to speak to him, and before she hangs up the phone, Mike can hear someone saying that he can't save his daughter. A social worker visits Sophie in her hospital room. She takes Angie aside for a chat and asks questions about Sophie's habits and behavior. When Mike gets to the office, his boss reprimands him for always taking out sick days to take care of his daughter. The boss warns Mike that if he keeps it up, he will be fired. While working, Mike's co-worker stops by his desk for a chat. Mike tells him about the vivid dreams he's been having, and the co-worker recommends his girlfriend, who is an expert on dreams. Later on, Angie calls Mike and informs him that the doctor believes that it's Sophie's nightmares that are causing her condition to deteriorate. That same afternoon, Mike visits the boy's mother. Initially, she refuses to help. She keeps saying that no doctor could figure out what was wrong with her son, but her husband had the idea that his son's dreams hold the key to solving his illness. She shares that her husband would sleep in their son's room every night, and for a while it helped. But one day, her husband died of a sudden heart attack, and their son was left vulnerable again. Shortly after that, the boy died as well. Mike also asks her about what she said about not being able to save Sophie on the phone. The mother's eyes widened in shock because she never spoke those words on the phone. She runs back inside the house and returns with several pieces of paper bearing a child's drawings, and there is a written message saying that she can't save her son. The handwriting is neat and clearly an adult's. That night, Angie tucks Sophie into bed. Then she sees a strange apparition in the closet, but Angie dismisses it as a mere figment of her imagination. Mike arrives home and is greeted by his wife. Together, they go to Sophie's bedroom and watch her sleeping form. The couple discuss the first child they had, who died as a baby, so losing another child would be too painful for them. Later on, Mike researches videos that can help him manage his repeating nightmare of a hooded man shooting him. He looks up his co-worker's girlfriend and starts watching her content. Hours later, he wakes up with a start and investigates the noise he hears downstairs. He uses his cell phone screen to light the way, but it flickers off as the whispers grow even more intense. The next morning, Mike is in a chipper mood, and he declares that he didn't have any nightmares. Sophie also appears to be feeling better. However, Angie points out that Mike has a mark on his neck. After Mike goes to work, Angie and Sophie play a game. She puts a blindfold on her daughter, guides her in sketching something, and makes her guess what it is. Angie takes her daughter's hand and sketches a rabbit with her crayon. Sophie successfully guesses this. But after this, Angie steps out of the room to take a call. A monster with clawed hands mimics Angie's voice and takes her daughter's hand to draw something else. When Angie returns to the room, she sees that someone had drawn a man being hanged, and the same message proclaiming that she can't save Sophie is scrawled on the paper in neat block letters. Sophie insists that it was her mother who drew it because she heard her voice. Meanwhile, Mike is spooked by the strange occurrences in his home. He decides to buy a security camera. While Mike is in the other room, Angie hears a vase crash in the dining room. Initially, she thinks Sophie did it, but Angie sees a horrifying apparition of the monster. Mike finds her cowering behind the kitchen counter in fear. But when he checks the dining room again, there is no one. Upstairs, a crayon rolls off Sophie's desk. The window mysteriously opens, and Sophie tries to chase her drawing, which is flying out of the window. She almost falls, but luckily, her parents hear the commotion and run upstairs to save her. Written on her bedroom wall with crayon is the same threatening message. The social worker pays a visit to their house and talks to Sophie alone as she draws. Sophie is hesitant to tell her about her dreams because when her best friend had told her about his dreams, she started having dreams too. She also adds that it's her father who saves her every night because her soul calls out to him. The social worker is alarmed and thinks that Mike is abusing Sophie, but Sophie vehemently denies this. But suddenly, the monster writes the threatening message again on the paper that Sophie is drawing on. This leads the social worker to finally believe that something sinister might be going on. She gives Angie her calling card and promises to help in any way that she can. Later that night, Sophie almost drowns at the bathtub as an unseen force pushes her under the water. Luckily, her father saves her. Mike experiences the same dream again. He is running through the city streets, being chased by a hooded gunman. But this time, when he gets cornered, the hooded gunman is revealed to be his father. Like before, the gunman says that he will show Mike the path, but he needs to let go of Sophie because he can't save her. Mike wakes up from his dream and stands up. He then discovers that he has actually left his corporeal body behind, and he is now a spirit. He goes to Sophie's bedroom and guards it. Mike finds the terrifying monster there, siphoning Sophie's energy from her mind. He fights the monster away and successfully defends his daughter. The next morning, Mike suggests that he and Sophie just not sleep at night and just sleep during the day so the monster won't be able to come for her. Their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of his co-worker and his psychic girlfriend named Miss Psychic, who is a dream expert. Mike shares his experiences with her, and she concludes that Mike was astral projecting every time he would have the recurring dream. She also adds that the darkness dwells in the astral plane, and it's dangerous for Mike's spirit to be challenging it there. But Mike answers that he doesn't have a choice, and he has to protect Sophie. Based on Mike's description, Miss Psychic also concludes that the monster is a demon that feeds off of Sophie's energy, and he is at his strongest at night. She also shares that years ago, the demon possessed a child and went on a murderous rampage before a shaman expelled the monster and bound it to the astral plane. Miss Psychic comes up with a plan to cast a protection spell. Angie is apprehensive about believing in the supernatural, but Mike convinces her to say yes so they can protect Sophie. The co-worker suggests that maybe they can bind the demon to a human body so it can be arrested by the police. However, the group doesn't want to sacrifice anyone's body so it can hold the demon. That night, the monster comes for Sophie again. The protective spell works, and the monster can't touch them. The monster upends the bed and grabs the co-worker, who had fallen out of the protection circle. Because of that, the monster siphons the co-worker's energy. Angie grabs Sophie and takes her to the study room downstairs, but the monster scares them by typing another ominous message on a laptop. Angie takes her daughter and runs inside the closet. The monster follows them there, and they flee out into the kitchen. Miss Psychic helps them by taking on the monster herself, but she is too weak. Mike decides that he will vanquish the monster once and for all by trapping it inside his smelly body. But the monster pushes him down the basement stairs, causing him to lose consciousness. Angie and Sophie follow him downstairs. He wakes up, but he is injured. Upon Mike's request, Angie tries to find something they can use to tie Mike to a chair. But the monster appears again and grabs Sophie. Mike screams at the monster to possess him instead. The monster accepts and enters Mike's body. Angie tries to duct tape Mike's body to the chair to trap the monster, but this proves futile. Sophie and Angie run back upstairs, as the monster is now possessing Mike's body and searches for them. She manages to call the police, and a unit is dispatched to their house. 2 policemen knock on their door, but after some time, they leave because no one is answering. Mike finds Angie and tries to choke her. Miss Psychic arrives at the bedroom and knocks Mike out. The 3 of them run out of the door as the possessed Mike chases them. The 2 police officers witness this and apprehend Mike as the monster trapped inside his body growls and thrashes around. Mike is arrested and convicted for the murder of his co-worker. He is sentenced to life imprisonment in a mental institution. Angie visits him, and his psychiatrist explains that he believes that Mike's real mind is still there somewhere. When the psychiatrist leaves, Angie peers closer into Mike's cell. The movie ends with Mike staring at Angie and then winking and smiling, indicating that the real Mike is still there and is keeping the monster at bay. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.